Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the NAFEM show, How to Be a Good Neighbor and Avoid On-Site Violations webinar. My name is Alice Konopasek, a manager here at NAFEM headquarters.
I am Jen Welby. I'm the exhibits coordinator for the NAFEM show.
And I'm Linda Bank, the NAFEM exhibits senior manager.
During today's webinar, we'll review booth construction dimensions and some recommendations on how to avoid violations at the show. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to you in the exhibitor education section of the show website at thenafemshow.org. To ask questions during today's webinar, send them to us using the question function on the control panel, please. We'll answer everything we can, and if we don't get to your question, we'll get back to you as soon as possible after today's session with the information requested. So before I turn it over to Jen, I want to provide you with an update on the mask requirement at the show. Last week we said that masks would be required, and that was based on the rules in place at the Orange County Convention Center. However, within the past week, that requirement has been lifted. So masks are no longer required at the Orange County Convention Center for those who are fully vaccinated. For those individuals who are not vaccinated, it's recommended that a mask be worn. So, as you can see, guidelines are updated frequently, and NAFEM will follow these guidelines and do what is needed to comply. So I think that's a bit of good news to start this webinar off with, don't you think? So Jen, let's get started. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice. So today we will talk through the different kinds of booth spaces at the NAFEM show, the common violations that go with each booth space, and some examples of what a violation looks like on site. We will also go through rules and regulations around booth drawings and signage. I will give a couple critical date reminders at the end, and we will finish with a live Q&A. As a reminder, all exhibitors received an email on June 3rd with information on their specific booth type and what rules and regulations you should be aware of. If you are unsure of what type of booth you have as we go through this webinar, please reach out to info@thenafemshow.org and we can confirm. Let's get started. So at the NAFEM show, we have 5 types of booths: inlines, corners, perimeters, peninsulas, and islands. Starting with inline booths, they only have one side exposed to an aisle and are generally arranged in a series along a straight line. Individual booths may be combined to form a larger inline exhibit space. In the example shown on the screen, Wabash Valley here is a 10 by 20 booth space, inline booth space. Behind them, Gates Manufacturing is a 15 by 20 inline space. The black and white striped space between them indicates the service aisle. The service aisle is behind the booths and attendees cannot walk in this area. The service aisle will be hidden with an 8-foot tall drape. Gates Manufacturing faces this main aisle, and Wabash faces booth 2357. In all inline booths, exhibit fixtures should not obstruct sight lines of neighboring exhibitors. This means that there is a maximum height of 8 feet tall in the back of the exhibit space and a maximum of 4 feet in the front 5 feet of your booth that's within 10 feet of a neighboring booth. So what that means is Wabash Valley can go up to 8 feet tall in the back half of their booth here, but in the front half of the booth, they can only build up to 4 feet tall. Hanging signs are not permitted in inline booths. I also want to point out that island booths, such as Bond Chef here, can build up to 16 feet in all areas of their booth. This is something to be aware of if you have island booths around you and you are in inline booth. So this is an example of an inline booth that's taller than 4 feet tall in the front 5 feet of their booth. So as you can see, they're blocking the sight lines of their neighbors. And this area, this part of their booth should only be up to 4 feet tall. So this would be a booth violation on site. Corner booths are the same shape as an inline booth, but these booths have 2 sides exposed to an aisle. Systems 4 is a 10 by 20 corner booth space right here. And Tortilla Masters is a 15 by 10 corner booth space. In corner booths, the same rules apply as inline booths. So exhibit fixtures should not obstruct sight lines of neighboring exhibitors. This means that there is a maximum height of 8 feet in the back of the exhibit space and a maximum of 4 feet in the front 5 feet of your booth within 10 feet of a neighboring booth. So for example, Systems 4 can build up to 8 feet tall in the back of their booth. And then in this area where they're next to a neighboring booth here within 10 feet, they cannot go taller than 4 feet tall. On this corner over here, since they are not within 10 feet of a neighbor, they can also build up to 8 feet tall in this area. Hanging signs are also not permitted in corner booths. So this exhibitor has a corner booth space, so they don't have a neighbor next to them over here, but their sign that's sitting on top of their equipment makes their exhibit space over 8 feet tall. So this back drape is 8 feet and nothing can be taller than this back drape. So this is, the sign's clearly taller, and this would be a booth violation on site. Perimeter booths are inline or corner booths that back up to any wall of the exhibit facility rather than to another exhibit. All guidelines for inline booths apply to perimeter booths with the exception that the maximum back wall height is 12 feet. So American Eagle Food Machinery is a 10 by 20 perimeter booth space because they back up to this building wall right here. So they can build up to 12 feet tall in the back of their booth. Hanging signs are also not permitted in perimeter booths. Peninsula booths must be exposed to aisles on 3 sides and composed of a minimum of 4 booths. Back walls must be finished and cannot contain copy. When a peninsula booth backs up to 2 inline booths, the back wall is restricted to 4 feet in height within 5 feet of an aisle and 10 feet of the adjoining booths. 16 feet is the maximum height allowance for the center portion of the back wall and exhibit features. Hanging signs can be hung at a maximum height of 20 feet to the top of the sign. If a hanging sign is placed within 5 feet of an adjacent booth, the side facing the adjacent booth should be finished and not contain any copy. NAFEM will provide 8-foot high drape for all peninsula booths. So Thermocool here is a 30 by 30 peninsula space. In this space here, in this space here, they cannot go taller than 4 feet so that they do not block the sight lines of their neighbors behind them. They can have a hanging sign, but if it's within 5 feet of their neighbors here, so if they were to have a hanging sign here or maybe over here, the side that faces their neighbors has to be a clean finished side and cannot contain any copy or logos. So if you have a peninsula booth that backs up to inline booths, you cannot have a 16-foot tall wall that stretches the whole length of your booth like this. Instead, this example on the right shows that they have their 16-foot tall wall, but then on their sides here, they have walls that are only 4 feet tall. And that's so that you can still see your neighbors behind you. So something to keep in mind, if you have a peninsula, you cannot build up to 16 feet all the way across. You need to make sure that you go up to only 4 feet within 5 feet here. We have 2 types of island booths at the NAFEM show. An island that's open on all 4 sides, like Winston Food Service here, and a split island that's open on 3 sides, like Thunderbird Food Machinery and Dough Express. Regardless, if you are an island or a split island booth, you can build up to 16 feet in all areas of your booth and have a hanging sign at a maximum of 20 feet from the floor to the top of the sign. Island booths are a minimum of 20 feet by 20 feet. If you have a split island booth and have a back wall, the side that faces the neighboring exhibitor must be finished and cannot contain copy. For example, if Thunderbird put up a 16-foot wall right here, the side that faces Dough Express has to be finished and cannot contain copy or logos. If you have a double-decker booth the Orange County Convention Center needs an engineered stamp plan for your double-decker structure to be approved. Something to keep in mind if you plan on doing a double-decker structure in your island booth. So this is an island booth space that has a structure that's above 16 feet tall. So this would be a violation because this is 18 feet tall and the maximum is 16 feet. You can have your hanging sign hanging at 20 feet, but any structures in your booth in an island space have a maximum height of 16 feet. The NAFEM show exhibitors occupying an island, split island, peninsula, modified peninsula, received a written booth violation at the NAFEM show in 2019, or who manufacture walk-in coolers or refrigerators, are required to submit a detailed floor plan, including dimensions, to show management for a review and approval by Friday, July 2nd. If you are not required to submit a booth drawing, but you have questions for show management or just want to double check your layout, feel free to also submit a drawing and we will get back to you with any feedback. So you can submit that drawing right in your exhibitor console. This tile will take you to a link where you can upload your drawing. For signage, all booth items such as products, literature, pens, shirts, etc. may display the exhibitor's logo. Reference or logos of a distributor, dealer, or supplier cannot be present in the booth. An exhibitor may list its NAFEM member company name and brands on booth signage and graphics. Non-member exhibitors may only list their company name on booth signage and graphics. As for products, all products exhibited must be on NAFEM's approved product category list. An exhibitor may display a product which it does not manufacture only if the products are branded under its name or trademark. The brand may be shown on the product or its packaging. If you have questions about products or graphics that you would like to have in your booth, please reach out to info@thenafemshow.org and we will confirm if it is permitted. The NAFEM show has floor managers that are designated to show floor areas. They're there to help exhibitors and answer questions and also to keep an eye out for booth violations. If the floor manager see a violation, they will always try to have a conversation with the exhibitor first so that they can adjust their booth structure. If the exhibitor is not in their booth or cannot or will not adjust, this is when they would be given an on-site booth violation. We review all violations with exhibitors the morning of show opening on Thursday to confirm if they are okay to accept the violation or plan to fix before the show floor officially opens at 9 a.m., in which case we would remove the violation. If an exhibitor accepts the violation, we have a 3-strike policy. Strike 1, you receive a letter post-show requiring the company to submit a diagram for review and approval prior to the next show. If you receive a booth violation at back-to-back shows, priority points are not earned for the current year's show. And if you receive 3 booth violations in a row, your company will be reviewed and NAFEM could determine to not allow you to exhibit at future NAFEM shows. Keep in mind, we're always trying to work with you on site to avoid having to give a violation. As always, I want to finish with a couple of critical date reminders. So final exhibit space balance is due by Wednesday, June 30th. As a reminder, after June 1st, you are responsible for the full space rental charge for any booth space that is canceled or reduced. July 2nd is when detailed floor plans are due for booth diagram review in advance of the show. Thank you to those that have already submitted your booth diagram for review. And again, you can submit those booth drawings through your exhibitor console. Alice, that concludes critical dates. Do we have any questions that we can answer?
Matter of fact, we do. The first one up is, how do I know if I received a booth violation in 2019?
Yeah, so you will receive an email from show management requesting a booth drawing from you. So that's how you know that you got a violation in 2019.
Okay, and I'm unsure of what booth type I am. Who can I reach out to?
Yeah, so sometimes it's confusing if you think you're an island space or an inline or a corner. So feel free to shoot us an email at info@thenafemshow.org, and we can confirm, just because the rules between an inline and an island booth change so much that it's always good to verify.
Okay. And I have another one that, so are booth drawings required for all exhibits or only if requested?
Only if requested. So if you have an inline booth and you have not received a booth violation in the past, you do not need to submit a booth drawing. I'm always happy to take a look if you have questions or just want to make sure, but it's not required.
Okay. And that's actually it for questions. There are no other questions. So with that, I would like to say thanks for your questions. And don't forget, if you missed anything, you can replay this webinar at any time from the exhibitor education section of the show site. We hope that you found today's session helpful, and don't miss the next show webinar, which is Wednesday, June 30th at 1 p.m. Central. We'll discuss everything you need to know as a first-time exhibitor. And even if you're not a first-time exhibitor, please join us, as it'll serve as a good review for you. So thanks again for joining us today, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.